We open on a scene of pure carnage, with bodies strewn across a blood-drenched floor. Amidst the wreckage, the only survivor collapses to his knees, his voice cracking as he asks why they'd do this when they were so close to achieving glory. The camera pushes in on the executive director's face, twisted in a raw, desperate scream. Stunned by this ultimate betrayal, he's suddenly yanked up by the collar by one of the men, who smirks and asks, "You really want to know why?" Kim Young-jin, identified as test subject 81, shoots him a death glare and questions if he's truly that clueless about what's unfolding. But the director just explodes, roaring at him to shut his mouth, because he wasn't the one being addressed. His gaze then locks onto another man, calling him out by name, Baek Woo-hyun. And that's our introduction to Baek. This man was the project's living Superman, and the director begins to grovel, calling him the single greatest masterpiece they had ever engineered. He dangles the promise of anything Baek could ever want, but Baek's reply is ice cold. He doesn't need a thing. Seeing that his words are useless, the director's desperation boils over into pure fury, and he calls Baek an absolute fool. Then comes the threat, warning him that the corporate alliance shows zero mercy to those who betray them. The warning escalates, promising that it won't just be him, but his entire family who will be utterly destroyed. But before that sentence can even be finished, a blur of motion flashes past, and the director is silenced for good. The shot cuts to Young-jin, pulling a dagger from his own stomach. Grievously injured, Young-jin is enraged at the sight of the dead director, complaining that he still had things to ask him. Just then, a system window materializes, announcing that the special mission has been officially completed. A look of profound relief washes over Baek as he realizes he's finally breaking free from this hellscape, his finger hovering over the exit button. A dark voice suddenly whispers, questioning where he thinks he's off to. The voice asks if he's so quick to forget them all the souls who were left behind. In an instant, spectral figures swarm him from all directions, crying out for a bloody campaign of revenge. But Baek flatly denies their plea. He declares that he's exhausted and has already sacrificed more than enough, believing this is his only way out. But Young-jin shouts his name. He pays the call, no mind, stating he's returning to his own world and leaving his partner with a sad, enigmatic smile. He asks him to pass on his apologies to the others before slamming the button. Smash cut to a boy jolting awake in his bed, absolutely terrified. Panting hard, he sits bolt upright and scans his surroundings, realizing he's in his old bedroom. A wave of shock hits him as he wonders if he actually made it home, and how much time had gone by. Snatching his phone, he sees it's the very same day he was ripped away to that other world. Zero time has passed. He rushes to a mirror and sees that his powerful, battle-hardened hunter's body has vanished, making it all feel like a fever dream. But the memories from that personal hell come flooding back, invading his thoughts. His eyes burn with hatred as he relives the gruesome battles. He remembers the feeling of fighting in chains against freakish monsters and all the violent acts he was forced to commit simply to survive. A vision of a girl's face flashes in his mind, begging him for help, pleading that she didn't want to die. The director's threat echoes in his skull, and he knows with chilling certainty it was never a dream. The sensations were far too vivid. The 10 years he endured there were terrifyingly real. All of a sudden, his phone begins to vibrate on the desk, showing an incoming call from Young Naeon. The name feels familiar, but he can't pinpoint where he knows it from. When he picks up, the girl on the other end erupts, demanding to know if he bailed on the promise they made. She reminds him they had a deal to meet up tonight, and orders him to get his butt over there immediately. Without even letting him get a word in, she just hangs up on him. After a beat of stunned silence, it finally clicks, and he recognizes that voice. It belonged to his only close colleague, the one person he considered a true friend at his job. And with that realization, the absolute worst memory surfaces. She was the one who persuaded him to try playing Reverse Planet. A dark suspicion forms in his mind, and he knows he has to find her. The scene transitions to the outside of a restaurant. He steps inside and almost instantly hears that same familiar voice calling out to him. It's Naeon, waving him over from one of the tables with a massive smile, saying it feels like it's been ages since they last saw each other. After he sits down, she asks if he plans on drinking tonight, but Baek tells her he's going to pass on the alcohol. He knows it would be a reckless move to drink in his current state, so the girl just says she'll order food. Moments later, the meat is delivered to their table. It immediately begins to sizzle on the grill, filling the air with a mouth-watering scent, but she gets right down to business. She asks if he's had a chance to play that Reverse Planet game. He tells her he only got as far as creating his character and watching the intro, which seems to shock her. She scoffs that you can't even call that playing, which causes his face to harden. Beneath the table, his hand clenches into a white-knuckled fist. His mind screams about the decade of hell he suffered because of her, but she's totally oblivious, complaining that he promised to be a regular guest on her stream. Then it all falls into place. He remembers she was a streamer, which explains why she was so pushy about the game. Despite his rage, A strange sense of relief washes over him, because this confirms he's truly back. We cut to him in his room, already deep into his computer. He's scouring the internet for any clues about the game, eventually finding the corporation that made it, and discovering their headquarters is in the United States. But he scraps that idea almost immediately, knowing full well that nobody on Earth would ever believe such a bat-crap insane story. He recalls the kind of danger that would put him in. The terrifying what-ifs swarmed his mind. What if they found him? Completely defeated. He couldn't help but wonder what the point of all this investigating even was. He made it out. That's all that mattered. He decided to just drop it. He was going to wipe the whole nightmare from his memory. Time to focus on the real world again. With a newfound resolve, he got dressed, ready to slam the door on the past. And just like that, he started over. He started hitting up his friends again, desperately trying to build some kind of normal life. Baek Woo-hyun actually started going to school, trying his best to just be a regular dude. But even in the middle of class, the scars etched across his back were a constant, burning reminder of the hell he'd survived. But then, a dark voice whispered in his mind, taunting him, asking if he truly ever came back. Suddenly, he whipped his head around, a cold chill running down his spine, as if he'd just felt an unseen presence. He frantically scanned the classroom, trying to figure out what was going on, but the visions came rushing back with a vengeance. The tormented souls were screaming, demanding revenge, begging him to kill. Overwhelmed by the psychic assault, he accidentally knocked his phone off the desk, and it hit the floor with a loud crack. Every student stared, wondering what was up with the resident weirdo. Unable to take the eyes on him, he bolted from the classroom and into the empty hallway. Totally lost, he slumped against the wall, and a shadowy hand clamped down on his shoulder, whispering his name. The second a classmate actually touched him, his combat instincts took over, and he grabbed the boy's arm in a vice grip. Baek twisted his arm on pure instinct, leaving the other student completely stunned by the sudden violence. In that instant, a horrifying vision seared his mind, himself holding a dagger dripping with blood, the memory of ambushing someone from behind flooding his senses. The kid cried out, asking what he was doing, which finally snapped him out of it. He immediately let go of his classmate, apologizing and rambling about how he got spooked and wasn't thinking straight. The student mentioned that everyone's been noticing how strange he's been acting lately. Trying to get a grip, Baek grabbed a soda from the vending machine and cracked it open. After that, he found an empty bench in the courtyard and sat down, just trying to breathe. But it was no use. One of the dark souls materialized at his feet, whispering his name again as the voices swirled around him, pleading with him to return and get revenge for them all. He just told them to shut up. That's when Neon appeared out of nowhere, calling out his name. When she saw the absolute despair on his face, she rushed over, saying he looked ghostly pale, and asking if something had happened. He tried to brush it off, insisting he was fine, but it was a total lie. The girl offered to help, and in that moment, something clicked in his head. He abruptly said goodbye, telling her he had to go back, as the phantom souls clung to his feet. The scene snaps to a sterile room with a single capsule, and he finally accepts that this torment is never going to end. So, if the souls refused to leave him in peace, he was going to settle this himself. He placed his hand on the machine. He thought to himself that this world wasn't any different from that hell anymore. With a look of grim determination, he climbed into the capsule, ready to dive back into that nightmare. Only this time, he was going to make damn sure he finished it the right way, once and for all. A system message welcomed him back. He materializes in what looks like the game's tutorial. Catching his reflection, he realizes he's in the waiting room of the in-game lab. But he was pissed. He wanted to go back to hell, not this clean, peaceful lobby. The system prompted him to confirm his appearance. He figured he might as well play along with the tutorial for now. First thing, he dove into the settings and switched off the combat assist. He was way past needing training wheels for that. The game then shifted to skill configuration, telling him to pick an element. Then, the skill tree popped up the system used to power up your character. The whole element framework is called a build, and there are literally professional gamers who research this stuff. He instantly remembered the build that turned him into a superhuman monster and selected it without a second thought. Abruptly, a loudspeaker crackled to life, a voice addressing him as Test Subject Number 48. The voice then informed him that a week had passed since the last experiment, which made him freeze. He realized the game conveniently fast-forwards through the awakening process, which was basically a torture session. He figured no sane person would ever want to experience that, even in a game. The voice then instructed him to proceed to the next room to start the experiment. But when he peered inside, he was greeted by a massive combat robot just waiting for him. He recognized the machine instantly, an Etnel robot. It was specifically designed to eliminate the project's test subjects, and with that, his first tutorial mission appeared: defeat the giant robot. But he noticed something off about it. It was one of the earliest, clunkiest models of the machine. At that exact moment, a traumatic memory surged back, a young boy screaming, begging him for help. He remembered the absolute massacre that robot was responsible for, how it slaughtered everyone right in front of him. With its single red eye glowing ominously, the machine powered up for an attack. The Etnel then charged, full throttle, ready to obliterate him without a hint of mercy. But he stood his ground, thinking that this situation was no different from the hell he just left. His eyes began to glow a brilliant gold, his anger at the researchers' cruelty boiling over. The Etnel swung with colossal force, aiming a devastating blow straight for the protagonist's head. However, with an incredible burst of speed, he dodged the strike like it was in slow motion. The machine's other arm lashed out, trying to grab him in a relentless assault, but he effortlessly evaded it once again. He stalks toward the robot's chassis, slamming a hand against the cold metal, figuring the final build is tough, but this prototype is just a knockoff. With one brutal strike, he completely shatters the machine's head, putting his raw power on full display. The resulting explosion sends shrapnel flying across the entire floor. A synthetic voice then crackles over the loudspeaker, declaring the experiment a success and his performance exemplary. With the tutorial mission officially cleared, the voice praises his off-the-charts aptitude for skills. But just as the system preps for the next trial, a strange, crackling energy begins to envelop him. Suddenly, alarms blare to life. The calm announcer's voice is now a desperate scream, yelling about a government invasion. In an instant, a woman hijacks the entire system. Her message is broadcast to all the test subjects. She tells them to use the power they were given and escape the facility, and he immediately recognizes her voice. Just like that, his second tutorial mission pops up. Escape the laboratory. A massive explosion rocks the building, and he knows. His number one priority is getting the hell out. He bolts through the decimated hallway, wondering just how many bombs have already detonated. He rounds a corner into a blazing inferno and comes face to face with a critically injured soldier. The man clocks him as one of the victims, and grunts that if he's made it this far, he must be desperate to live. To even the odds, the soldier triggers a hidden mechanism, telling him he can give him a little boost. A section of the wall retracts, unveiling a fully stocked armory. Take whatever you need, the soldier urges, shoving a flare into his hand. Pop this when you get outside. It'll signal for rescue. An instant later, the soldier's arm falls limp. Our hero wonders if the man just died right in front of him. He pauses for a second, just staring at the arsenal laid out before him. But then he spots the wreckage of the robot and remembers this is all just a game. This has to be a cinematic cutscene. He walks right past the high-tech firearms and instead grabs a much more sinister-looking scythe, attached to a long chain. The moment he grips it, that strange energy surges through him as ghostly apparitions swirl around him. The perspective shifts to a young woman, letting out a groan at having to stream the most mainstream game in the entire country. This is Kang Soyol, a pro streamer, whose indie gamer cred is taking a massive hit. In her live chat, viewers are absolutely clowning on her, but she fires back that this was their donation goal. She insists that a promise is a promise, one she'd never break for her fans, but her chat is ruthless, immediately spamming all the time she totally bailed on her promises. Trying to pivot, she announces the official start of her challenge to conquer Reverse Planet. Inside the game, she finalizes her character's look and selects the fire element as her affinity. Then, she navigates to the combat assistance setting, which is at a default 50%. But her chat instantly floods with messages, demanding she crank it down to 0 and clear the tutorial with no help at all. She flashes back to her research. The clear rate for the tutorial with 0 assistance is basically non-existent. She knows she's a cracked gamer, but playing with no assist is a certified suicide run. But right as she's about to refuse, a special quest alert appears, offering a fat stack of cash as a reward. Her eyes practically turn into dollar signs. She flips her opinion on a dime, declaring that a true streamer always accepts a challenge. So, she announces she's going in with 0 assistance and dashes off excitedly to start her run. Standing before the first gate, she nervously asks her chat if they're 100% sure about this. The result is an absolute disaster. She gets flattened in 2 minutes flat and bursts into tears, whining about how unfair the game is. Her chat kind of agrees, but is mostly just spamming emotes and roasting her for getting wiped by a tutorial bot. Back at the respawn point, she sighs that all she has to do now is escape, but a new system window interrupts her. The second mission kicks off, and the game begins an automatic party search. She wonders out loud if clearing it with a party still counts as beating the challenge, but her chat immediately accuses her of trying to get carried. The search fails, though, leaving her totally baffled, especially for a game this insanely popular. Then, her chat explains the catch. She can only party up with other players, who have also set their combat assistance to 0. The viewers lose it, laughing at the idea that she might be the one who needs to get carried this time. Just as she's about to rage quit the mission, the system finds a match and yanks her in. She's teleported away, screaming that she's totally screwed, but her words die in her throat when she sees what's waiting for her. she materializes at the rendezvous point and is greeted by a mountain of mangled robot parts. Completely shocked, she tells her chat that this situation is legit serious and not a joke. The craziest part? She realizes all this insane damage was done without any weapons. A huge grin spreads across her face as she realizes she just hit the jackpot and found the perfect gigachad to carry her to victory. The camera zooms in on a blood-soaked knife, dripping ominously onto the grimy floor. Our protagonist is standing over a body, encircled by the husks of defeated bots, a menacing purple light glowing in his eyes. He turns his head slowly, locking his gaze on her. The girl calls out tentatively, excuse me?" to the figure down the hall. But in the blink of an eye, he vanishes and reappears right in front of her, pressing the cold blade of the knife to her throat. Covered in someone else's blood, he glares at her from inches away, the tension becoming suffocating. She's frozen in shock, with the razor-sharp steel practically on her skin, with no idea what to do. Cowering, she begs him to spare her. He just blinks, then pulls the knife away. "Oh, whoops," he says. "My mistake." Spotting his suit, she clocks that they're in the same party and rushes to his side, introducing herself as the streamer Kang Soyol. She then asks for permission to record him for her stream, assuring him his face will be completely hidden, but he abruptly grinds to a halt. She's totally bewildered, wondering why he just stopped cold. Then, out of nowhere, a squad of soldiers materializes in the hallway. They scream out their orders. "We don't need him alive." Without a moment's hesitation, they unleash a merciless storm of bullets on the two of them. The streamer dives for cover, absolutely freaking out and complaining about how insane the tutorial's difficulty is. In the middle of the chaos, she starts worrying about the guy who was supposed to be her carry, yelling to see if he's okay through the gunfire. But he's effortlessly weaving through every single bullet in midair, like they're moving in slow motion. He then uses his weapon's chain to launch himself forward and blitzes the soldiers. He transforms into a pure blur of destruction, neutralizing everyone and leaving the girl and her entire chat completely stunned. From her hiding spot, she asks her chat if this is even possible, because it looks completely unreal. She's baffled, wondering what kind of skill he could possibly be using, especially since the color of his eyes has completely changed. A viewer chimes in, explaining that it's the perfect being skill. This just leaves her more baffled. She remembers that's a famously useless skill that literally prevents you from using any other abilities. And here's the breakdown on the perfect being skill, a core element of the game. It skyrockets your physical stats to an insane degree, but the catch is, it locks you out of every other skill in the game. Because of this crippling disadvantage, it's universally known as the single worst skill you can pick. The streamer is absolutely stumped that someone would intentionally choose a build like that. It makes zero sense. She considers that maybe it's a strategy to hyper-focus on stats, but he's still only at level 1. So how in the world is he pulling off these Matrix-level moves, dodging a literal bullet hell? Utterly mystified, she questions who this mysterious player truly is. In the blink of an eye, he eliminates another soldier with a vicious and brutal strike. And just like that, the hallway is cleared, a path paved with fallen bodies. But dark, spectral voices begin to whisper in his mind, hissing that this isn't nearly enough. They swarm his thoughts, demanding a far more savage revenge, their thirst for vengeance still unquenched. Without warning, a sniper appears at the far end of the hall, taking aim. The crosshairs of the sniper's scope zero in on its target, ready to deliver the killing blow and end everything. Soyol feels the imminent danger and screams a warning, trying to tell him he's about to be shot. But in a shockingly swift motion, he yanks her in front of him, using her body as a human shield to absorb the impact. The sniper doesn't let up, continuing to fire as bullets ricochet wildly around the corridor. Realizing he missed his chance, the sniper seethes with rage, while the streamer is knocked to the floor. But using a gun she managed to grab, she retaliates with a perfectly aimed headshot, taking the soldier down. She collapses on the ground, panting with relief, as her chat erupts, accusing her of kill-stealing from the main character. He then walks over and asks her how it felt to put that guy down. Flashing a triumphant grin, she brags that at least she proved she could be useful. Suddenly, a vivid memory flashes through his mind, a little girl's voice, happily calling his name. It's a flashback to his past, surrounded by the other prisoners from that nightmarish facility. Snapping back to the present, she calls out to him, but he just gives her a cold, empty stare. She gets a bad feeling and asks if he's mad at her, but his reply is chillingly flat. No, he says she was a big help, which causes the chat to explode over how kind he is. Overjoyed, she asks if they can team up for the tutorial, and he simply agrees. As they begin to walk, he introduces himself as Baek Woo-yoon, which catches her completely off guard. She then has to ask if it's for real. Did he actually pick the perfect being skill? He confirms it without hesitation. Overcome with curiosity, she asks how he dodges bullets, but he dismisses the question, saying he doesn't really like games. He then halts again, and she asks him, Confused by yet another sudden stop, Bake warns her that there are two Edenel robots positioned about 20 meters ahead. She's completely floored, since he shouldn't have any detection skills to know that information. But just a few moments later, two massive robots stomp into the hallway, proving his senses were dead on. He calmly walks toward them, remarking that he actually used to love playing in the game's Colosseum. With a dark energy radiating from him, he charges and unleashes a devastating blow on one of the mechs. The strike connects with explosive force, completely obliterating the machine. He carries on the assault, mentioning how intensely he used to play back in his Colosseum days. With a look of pure confidence, he reveals he was skilled enough to hit the official rankings. And with one final, crushing impact, he annihilates the last robot, effortlessly clearing their path. The chat goes absolutely ballistic, and she asks if being a Colosseum ranker is really that big of a deal. Someone then explains that back in the day, those rankers became the first pro players, legends like the famous player Butler. She's completely shook, since Butler is the most legendary pro player in the world. Back just calls for her to move out, and she scrambles to follow, buzzing with excitement over this massive revelation. They finally reach the end of the long corridor, where a masked figure is waiting for them. "So you've dragged yourselves all the way here," the man sneers, threatening that this very spot is about to become their tomb. A wicked grin spreads across his face. It's the tutorial boss, the guard captain, sneering that they're about to join their dead comrades. The moment Bake hears this, his entire demeanor shifts, his face contorts with pure, unadulterated rage and a thirst for vengeance, as the ethereal souls of his fallen friends begin to appear. They twist in spectral agony on the ground, their voices whispering into his mind, urging him to quickly slaughter the monster who took them down. The captain roars, charging straight for them, and vowing that none of them will escape alive. Soul instantly snaps into a defensive stance to help. She starts unloading her weapon to lay down cover fire for Bake, but her rounds just spark and deflect off the boss, who's surrounded by some kind of shimmering barrier. She screams that she'll provide backup, but Bake just stares back at her with a chillingly empty gaze, thinking that even if this is just a game, he's going to unleash every last bit of his power on this man. In a single, explosive movement, he lands a devastating blow that makes the captain feel the raw force of the impact. The collision unleashes a massive shockwave, blasting the boss backward with overwhelming power, leaving the streamer utterly stunned. She has no idea what just unfolded. The captain, however, scrambles to his feet in a fury, screaming at the protagonist. He calls him a disgusting, worthless insect. A chilling frost crackles around his gauntlets as he launches himself at Bake with everything he's got. Bake effortlessly sidesteps the icy assault, which completely obliterates the floor where he was just standing, enraging the captain even more. He furiously demands to know how long Bake thinks he can keep dodging. He then unleashes a spinning vortex of ice that hurtles toward Bake, and the attack connects, sending him flying. He's slammed with brutal force into the hallway wall, but he pushes himself up, balling his fist, poised to counter the enemy's assault with a direct strike. He drives his fist square into the captain's face, who visibly reels from the crushing impact. The boss stumbles back from the sheer power of the punch, all while Bake glares at him with an ice-cold expression. Abruptly, the whispers of the souls return, telling him not to unleash his full strength just yet. They hiss that the captain doesn't deserve a quick death, pleading with him to rip the man to shreds. The captain, completely baffled, can only wonder aloud. How could a simple test subject possess this insane level of power? Bake glances down at his own hands and replies with chilling calm, saying he has the captain to thank for it. With one final, devastating blow, a spray of crimson explodes across the room, ending the battle for good, as the system confirms his victory. Saul is completely speechless, struggling to process what just happened. She starts cheering that they finally took down the boss, while Bake just looms over the body. He then raises his fist to deliver the finishing blow, but the streamer shouts his name, telling him it's time to get out of there. He agrees and turns away, leaving the captain's crumpled form on the ground as they head through the exit door. Saul lets out a huge sigh of relief, celebrating that they actually managed to escape. Just then, the system officially confirms their success. She asks if he's planning to jump into the main questline, but he shuts her down, saying that's more than enough for him. He's done for the day and is logging off. But she quickly tells him to wait just a second, because she has an offer for him. Her words pique his curiosity, and the streamer immediately ends her live broadcast, hyping up her chat that the challenge was a massive success. After the stream cuts, she turns to him with a genuine thanks, and he looks at her with a hint of hope, asking about her proposal. She asks if he would consider being a regular feature on her streams. He looks a little thrown off, so she clarifies that she plans to focus on main quests, and a lot of PvP content. The girl presses on, promising to work around his availability, and even offering to pay him, but he flat out turns her down. From the look on his face, she knows there's zero point in pushing it. So instead, she asks if she can at least add him as a friend in the game. He finally caves and agrees. Before she goes, she says her goodbyes, telling him she had a blast playing with him, and then logs out. Now alone, he reflects on how he finally cleared the game's tutorial, but a nagging question surfaces in his mind. He wonders why he still hasn't been sent back to the other side. Meanwhile, in a different place, someone is frantically typing on a keyboard. They're posting all about the incident. At that moment, Bake had no clue about the firestorm his gameplay was about to ignite, all across the internet. To make things even weirder, an anonymous donation pops up carrying a seriously ominous message. It asks what it feels like to be back in reality. The scene then cuts to the headquarters of Planet Earth, the corporation behind the game. Inside, the entire development team was in a state of absolute panic, all because of a single player. One of the employees is rewatching the gameplay footage. He's in total disbelief at what he's witnessing. The team debates how this guy beat a boss with 0 weapons and no aim assist. The worried team leader asks if they're certain it wasn't a hack, but the lead technician confirms they've scrubbed everything and found no trace of program modifications. He explains that he's seen every type of hacker imaginable, from the ones who can clip through walls, but he's never, ever witnessed movements this ridiculously precise. The young man then yells that this level of control is physically impossible to achieve, even with the best cheat engine. The boss then speculates that it might be a completely new, undiscovered type of hack. Either way, he declares that they have to get to the bottom of this situation, and fast. The scene then shifts over to Woohyun. He's chilling with Nayeon at a coffee shop. He asks her, looking a little surprised, if the online forums are really blowing up because of him. Absolutely buzzing with excitement, she confirms that the internet is in total meltdown over his performance. Nayeon then shows him that the community's consensus is that his insane achievement was definitely a confirmed hack. Nayeon admits her jaw hit the floor watching the clip, and Woohyun just shrugs, saying it's a good thing she even knew it was him. She's like, dude, I knew you were cracked, but not that cracked. And for him, that explains the message he got. She immediately asks what message he's talking about, but he gets a little shifty. Then you can see the gears turning in her head, and it clicks. She shouts, no way. Did the game devs hit you up? Are they seriously trying to bust you for hacking? He just gives a simple nod, explaining that the invitation was actually passed along by the streamer who broadcast his fight. Nayeon starts stressing about all the drama this is going to stir up, asking if he's really going to accept the challenge. Woohyun pauses, lost in thought. This is his one and only shot to get in front of the game developers. So he finally confirms he's in, sending his friend into a full-blown hype spiral. She thinks it's the perfect chance to clear his name, but he waves it off, saying he couldn't care less about that. Nayeon fires back that his fighting style is completely unique. She insists it would be impossible not to recognize his moves, explaining that even the top-tier pros are given away by their signature habits. Her words leave him thinking. She slumps into her chair, relieved, admitting she's glad he accepted because it would take the heat off the streamer. He's totally lost, failing to see how any of this connects back to the girl, but she looks at him with pure impatience. She lays it out for him. The angry mob would come for him first, sure, but they would eventually turn their rage on the streamer who gave him the platform. The thought of the streamer getting caught in the crossfire has Woohyun staring into his glass. A silent, pivotal decision is made. Then, the scene snaps over to Kang Soyeol. She gets his message and explodes with joy, massively relieved. She can already see the view counts going through the roof. Parked in front of her setup, she immediately starts hammering out the announcement, telling her entire community to get ready for a legendary event. And with that, the official announcement drops. The stream to settle the hack controversy is officially on. 4 days crawl by, and the moment of truth finally arrives. Inside the world of Reverse Planet, Woohyun's avatar materializes. The streamer, Soyeol, greets him, absolutely buzzing with energy as she runs up, apologizing for all the chaos. But he's cool with it, saying it's no big deal. He then cuts straight to the chase, asking if she also thinks he's using some kind of cheat. Soyeol instantly denies it. No way. She says she saw the unhinged intensity in his eyes, and you just can't fake that. He finds her reason pretty interesting. She just tells him it's time to get the show on the road, and with a bright smile and a wave, Soyeol kicks off the live stream. As she welcomes her audience, her eyes go wide at the insane viewer count. She announces that the man of the hour, Woohyun, is here to put all the rumors to rest. With the calm of a seasoned pro, Woohyun formally introduces himself to the thousands of people watching. Soyeol begs the chat to behave, then turns to Woohyun for his take on the whole drama before they get started. He just calls it absurd that this is even a debate, which immediately splits the chat. Soyeol then drops a bombshell. A special guest is here for the verification. At that very moment, a man materializes out of a pillar of blue light right in front of them. He introduces himself as Park Gumyeon, the head of operations for the game company itself. Woohyun instantly realizes this guy might have answers, and he fully intends to grill him after the test. The streamer thanks the exec for coming and politely introduces Woohyun, while the leader just sizes the player up. His internal thought? This kid, he doesn't look like anything special. The exec announces he's guiding them to the official verification area. They're teleported to a private training room that leaves even Soyol impressed. The GM explains they'll be observing his combat skills. It's a place Woo Hyun has never seen before. The leader then asks if he agrees to the terms. He accepts without a moment's hesitation. The executive then strides toward a massive metal door to begin the test. It groans open slowly, revealing the monster waiting inside for our protagonist. From the darkness emerges a massive training robot with glowing red eyes. The leader announces they'll kick things off with the intermediate level robot. Woo Hyun's focus sharpens to a razor's edge. A dark memory flashes in his mind, shadowy hands grabbing at him, screaming for revenge, all while the exec watches the feed on his tablet. A cruel smile spreads across the exec's face as he thinks, now, they'll just kill each other. But a sudden, deafening crash shatters the silence. Completely thrown, the man whips around only to find an empty space. He has no idea where the player disappeared to. Startled, he looks back at his tablet. The words kill each other, echoing in his mind. That's when the screen begins to shake violently. The glass strains, almost cracking from the sheer intensity of the scene, before the entire device shatters in his hands as he stands there, speechless at what he's witnessing. On the feed, Woo Hyun, shrouded in a sinister aura, is literally annihilating the robot with his bare hands. The exec realizes instantly this wasn't a hack. This was power on a completely different level. Woo Hyun plants his foot on the robot's smoking wreckage, signaling the fight was long over. He coolly informs the leader that the first test is done, leaving the man utterly frozen in shock. The exec confirms there was no hack detected, but complains the fight was too quick. He then challenges Woo Hyun to fight in a very specific way. The young man agrees on the spot. This new test is designed to prove he isn't using an auto-combat hack. The GM then tasks him with defeating 3 robots at once, using only a chainsaw. Even the exec knows the conditions are ridiculously unfair, making victory look like a total pipe dream. Then, without a single warning, 3 brand new training bots materialize out of thin air, boxing our protagonist in. But even outnumbered and outgunned, Woo Hyun doesn't even flinch. He starts spinning his chain at an absolutely absurd speed, turning it into a literal blur. He rockets forward with insane agility, sliding under one bot's attack as he winds up his own, skidding across the polished floor. The young man whips the chain, using the momentum to slingshot himself around and knock his targets completely off balance. In a flash, he snares one of the robots in his chains, turning it into a makeshift wrecking ball. His eyes are locked in with a laser focus, mapping out every single move for the perfect takedown. And in the blink of an eye, all 3 bots are reduced to nothing but scrap metal, with zero chance to even process what happened. Totally hyped, Soyol screams that she knew his chain moved like it had a mind of its own. But the leader is on a whole different wavelength, thinking to himself that they've already snagged enough data for their analysis. Still, a little thought creeps in. He wonders how this player would handle a real challenge, like an advanced level machine. A sly grin spreads across his face as he decides it's time to crank this test up to 11. Right on cue, a massive new door grinds open. Thick, theatrical smoke floods the arena, and from within the darkness, 2 sinister red eyes flare to life, staring daggers right at our protagonist. A new robot, this one with a terrifyingly human silhouette, emerges from the fog with a slow, deliberate walk. The GM's voice booms out, announcing the final test is against the advanced robot model, Edible. Woo Hyun is frozen solid, a flicker of recognition in his eye as he processes the machine's name. Now, the hero and the robot stand face to face in a silence so thick you could cut it with a knife. Suddenly, a horrifying vision of a brutal massacre flashes through our protagonist's mind. The edible robot's face then contorts into a twisted, bone-chilling grin, like it's actually enjoying the psychological torment. With pure hatred burning in his eyes, Woo Hyun's aura flares to life, signaling to everyone that this just got deeply personal. In a split second, the machine explodes forward, its fist a blur of motion. He manages to twist away, but not fast enough, earning a fresh cut across his cheek. But a smirk plays on his lips at the challenge. He clenches his fist until his knuckles are white, bracing himself to counter the bot's assault. Wasting zero time, he unleashes a powerful counterstrike, slamming his fist dead center into the machine's chassis. The exchange of blows is so freaking intense they're literally tearing the arena walls apart. He instantly realizes this thing's power is on another level. A single clean hit could be fatal. But to make things even worse, the robot's armor was ridiculously tanky. His attacks weren't even leaving a scratch, highlighting the massive difference in their power levels. Spotting an opening, the machine surges forward again. It gives him zero time to think, so he decides on a new strategy, a relentless, non-stop barrage until something finally connects. Watching from the control room, Soyul and the leader are on the edge of their seats, captivated by the sheer brutality of this throwdown. The man is in disbelief that this kid is actually managing to go toe-to-toe with their top-tier robot. Slowly but surely, the protagonist starts to dominate the battle. He's completely turning the tables in his favor, and with that, the leader decides he's seen more than enough and pulls the plug on the test. Out of nowhere, the robot pixelates into nothing in a flash of blue light, leaving Woo Hyun standing there totally confused. The GM explains that he just despawned the machine, since they had already collected all the data they needed. He confirms that there was no hack involved, proving Woo Hyun's skill is 100% legit. Soyul is ecstatic, celebrating that they've finally proven he wasn't some hacker, squashing all the rumors. She then hammers the point home to her audience that his skills are so insane they actually look like hacks. And with that final thought, she ends the stream. It peaked with over 100,000 viewers watching live. The leader thanks both of them for showing up, but Woo Hyun just shrugs it off, saying it was no big deal. The GM, clearly impressed by his humility, gets ready to dip but is stopped by him. Woo Hyun says he has a really important question, which gets the man's attention. He then asks if there's a bug in the game, a bug that literally stops someone from being able to log out. But the leader denies it, saying he's never heard of a game-breaking error that severe. The man says his goodbyes and vanishes in a flash of blue light, leaving the two players standing alone in the wrecked arena. Soyul thanks him again and offers to split the cash from the stream, and he tells her to go ahead and contact him. She thinks to herself it would be a huge waste to just let a talent like him go, but he can sense she's holding something back. In the end, she chickens out, says goodbye, and vanishes too. She silently promises she'll find him again later. The scene cuts, and now Neon is calling him, hyped to try out the PvP mode. We're told that PvP, or player versus player, is a huge part of the game's core experience. He asks her if that's the only reason she hit him up, and she just yanks him along, buzzing with excitement for a fight. Neon insists that PvP is the absolute heart of the game, and that he can't just brush it off. But Woo Hyun is thinking that while the story mode reminds him way too much of his old world, PvP offers something completely new. She then starts breaking down the modes, starting with Duel, which is a classic one-on-one or two-on-two battle. Next, she pulls up Conflict mode. It features 5-on-5 team battles. And finally, Survival, a massive battle royale where the last person standing takes the win. She suggests they hop into a team battle and even offers to help him with his character build, but he turns her down flat. He thinks to himself that he already has the perfect build, the exact same one that made him a living legend in his other world. With that thought, he starts setting up his skills. While Neon gets herself ready for the match, the young man decides their starting point should be the military base. A total death trap. Nayeon gets totally hyped and begs to record the match, and he finally caves. Psyched, she smashes the start button without a second thought. The system immediately confirms their drop point, the military base. As the 60-second timer ticks down, she gives him a casual wave, hoping they both make it out of this alive. Cut to the players spawning across the map, all of them gearing up for the impending chaos. Elsewhere, some random player is complaining that the loot in the hallway is absolute garbage. He knows he needs to bail, fast. But lurking just out of view, Woo Hyun melts out of the shadows. In that instant, the entire base explodes into a war zone of gunfire and detonations. That's when the kill feed goes absolutely ballistic, just a constant stream of Woo Hyun's name taking out player after player. She's left totally speechless. One player, wondering what in the hell is going on, is caught completely off guard, ambushed from behind. With zero time to react, a single clean strike from Woo Hyun drops him. He surveys the area and realizes he's cleared out the entire zone. He's reminded of how he used to mow down entire armies back in his own world, and for a moment, he thinks the slaughter is finished. He turns to leave, but something catches his eye. A desperate, crackling voice message from Nayeon comes through. She's begging for help. He yanks open the map and sees her icon blinking on the far side of the compound, way too far away. Without skipping a beat, he demands her exact position. "Third floor rooftop," she replies, warning him to be careful. With firefights raging on every floor of the building, he tears through the chaos at a dead sprint, blasting past other players shouting warnings about him. One of the guys is stunned, silent by his sheer speed, while his buddy charges up a fire attack, but our protagonist just weaves right past the flames. He blocks a blade with his gauntlet, and in one fluid motion, grabs the enemy's arm and completely smothers the fire ability. Then he takes the guy out with a single, precise blow, leaving his partner frozen in shock. The remaining player becomes enraged. He unleashes a dark, swirling aura, revealing his true power. With a furious roar, he launches a devastating blast straight at Woo Hyun. But Woo Hyun just vaults right over the wave of energy, dodging the attack with unbelievable agility. The player is livid to see his ultimate move fail, so pathetically. Before the guy can even blink, our protagonist closes the distance and slashes him with his knife. With an icy stare, he confirms another kill, clearing his path to the building. he immediately breaks back into a full-speed sprint. He ignores the trail of bodies in his wake and, along the way, even manages to clip another enemy without slowing down. Another player lines up a perfect shot, thinking he has a chance, but gets effortlessly taken down from behind. He finally reaches the building and pings Nayeon. She offers to provide sniper support from the roof, but he tells her to stay put for now as he gets ready to breach. He presses his ear to the door, carefully listening, trying to sense the enemy presence inside. He can feel at least 5 of them. They're waiting for him in the darkened room, so he kicks the door in and steps inside, but someone was already hiding right there for an ambush. The enemy smirks, ready to plunge a knife into our protagonist's back, but in less than a heartbeat, Woo Hyun's hand clamps down on his wrist. The attack stops dead in midair. The guy is in total disbelief, unable to process how his perfect ambush was just shut down. With a lightning-fast move, Woo Hyun flips the script and strikes the enemy from behind, eliminating him. He lets the body drop, thinking he has to hurry up and get to Nayeon. Not wasting a single moment, he bolts up the stairs, leaving a wake of defeated enemies behind him. And with that, the kill feed lights up again, showing him taking out 4 more players in rapid succession. Watching the notifications from outside, Nayeon is floored by the carnage. She realizes Woo Hyun isn't just fighting, he's farming enemies without even breaking a sweat. But suddenly, she feels a presence creeping up right behind her. It puts her on high alert. It was Woo Hyun, who had appeared from nowhere and completely startled her. Using a speed skill, he snatches her chainsaw, and she complains that he nearly gave her a heart attack. She says she didn't even see him move, and he wonders if she was ever in any real danger. Nayeon asks if he wiped the entire building, and he just questions the insane weapon she chose. Totally hyped, she announces she'll carry the rest of the game now, which actually makes him laugh. With the game over, the results screen declares their victory, with Woo Hyun racking up 25 kills. Back in the lobby, they see they've hit a 10-game winning streak and decide to call it a night. She then just stares at him, realizing her friend is an absolute gaming demon. The streamer, Soil, excitedly tells him to give her a few days, promising a massive streaming contract is coming his way. But he flat out refuses, saying he's not interested since he doesn't even intend to play the main story. Still, she begs him to reconsider before saying goodbye. Disappearing in a shower of blue light, Woo Hyun is left alone, frustrated that even the PvP mode gave him 0 clues. The scene cuts back to the real world, showing the city silent in the dead of night. In her room, the streamer Soil was lying in bed, staring excitedly at her phone. She was scrolling through the community forums, which were completely exploding with posts about her stream. Overjoyed, she just rolled around in bed celebrating, knowing she had absolutely hit the jackpot. She remembers the peak viewer count, still unable to believe it soared past 100,000 viewers, and with that realization, she feels a sudden sting of regret. She was totally daydreaming about co-streaming with Woo Hyun, but reality hit hard when she remembered how he shut down the idea of ever becoming a streamer. So, her first move, she figures, is to at least get him paid for the stream they did. But the moment she checks their earnings, her eyes practically bug out of her head in disbelief. The scene snaps to the next day, with Woo Hyun meeting Nayeon at a cafe. She flips open her laptop and shows him a full-blown streamer project, leaving him completely lost. Nayeon launches into the presentation she painstakingly put together, but he is 100% not impressed. He reminds her she said he could just play by himself, without having to engage with a single soul, so she pivots to a whole new concept, a kind of variety/observation show. The pitch is simple. A cast would watch his gameplay and provide all the commentary. This way, she explains, his only job is to dominate the game, and she'd handle 100% of the talking. She even throws in the idea of bringing on a pro commentator if they needed extra hype. Nayeon sweetens the deal with an even 50-50 profit split, but he keeps hitting her with a hard no. That's when it dawns on her. The payment from Soil must have already gone through. He pulls out his phone to check. He hunts for that email he got earlier, the one he hadn't even bothered to open. The message displayed a payout of 6.6 million won, with a special donation attached. Nayeon's jaw drops at the insane amount, but Woo Hyun's eyes are glued to the donation message, reading every word. The kid freezes solid, looking like he's just seen a ghost. The messages were from some viewer who knew he had returned from that place. He realizes this person doesn't just know his secret past, their screen name is a massive clue. Utterly panicked, he leaps out of his chair. Who could possibly know, he thinks, spiraling. He desperately asks her to trace the donor, but she has to break the news that it's against the rules. That's when it hits him. The only channel he has to communicate with this mysterious person is through streaming. His mind is made up. He declares he'll become a streamer, leaving Nayeon absolutely floored. But to lock it in, Woo Hyun tells her he has a single condition she has to accept. Friday night rolls in, a time when the city unwinds. But for the hardcore gamers, it's prime time to assemble in front of their screens. The game's forums were on fire, the entire community holding its breath for Superman's stream. We then cut to the virtual studio, 5 minutes before they're scheduled to go live. Nayeon was visibly a wreck, but her partner tries to calm her nerves, telling her they were more than prepared. He introduces himself as Cha Seung-chol, a professional caster for the game Reverse Planet. He casually mentions that he never thought anyone, aside from Soyeol, could ever manage to get Superman on a stream. In that instant, the on-air light flashes red, signaling the start of the legendary broadcast. Putting on a brave face, Nayeon and Seung-chol introduce themselves to the thousands of viewers flooding in. She starts to get a little awkward, noticing the chat is already getting heated about the main event not being on screen. But then, a twist. She reveals that Superman was already logged into the game, waiting for the signal. She explains the whole format is observational, with them breaking down the hero's every move. Nayeon then hypes up the crowd, asking if they're finally ready to witness the match. She shoots a text to Woo-hyun, giving him the green light to kick things off. With that, a distorted voice crackles over a radio signal, rambling on about some kind of interdimensional agency. The voice explains that the objective is to rescue survivors, so they can make it out of the forest alive. Then, a mission screen materializes, ordering him to link up with the agency. He stares out at the forest, and a cold dread washes over him. The landscape is a perfect replica of his dark past. A traumatic memory flashes through his mind, of how he was forced to do nothing but run for his life in that other world. But with a burning look of resolve, he decides this time will be totally different. Out of nowhere, an enemy scout spots him and fires a flare into the sky, exposing his position. A heartbeat later, masked guards swarm from the shadows, completely surrounding the area to trap him. They get the command to assault him from 3 directions, setting up a deadly ambush. Without a shred of hesitation, the hostiles leap from the trees, closing in on Woo-hyun from all sides. His eyes flash with a deep-seated hatred. He vows to himself that he's going to finish every last one of them, right here, right now. A raw need for revenge consumes him as he charges forward with murderous intent. The guards immediately open fire, unleashing a hailstorm of bullets toward the hero. But with unbelievable skill, he whips out his chain and deflects the entire volley. One of the bullets ricochets back and shatters a guard's weapon, leaving him stunned. That same bullet then strikes a grenade on another soldier's belt, causing a massive explosion that completely vaporizes the enemy. The guards call him an idiot for charging in alone, rushing him with everything they've got. But he launches into an acrobatic mid-air spin, expertly snaring 2 enemies at once with his chain. The chain cinches tight, locking the guards in place with no hope of escape. With a ferocious tug, he smashes their heads together in mid-air. Without missing a beat, the hero begins swinging the chain at an insane velocity. He then slams their bodies directly into the ground, cracking the earth and creating a small crater. The impact is absolutely brutal, leaving the enemies mangled and coughing up blood. Seizing the moment, he moves like a phantom and eliminates the other guards who were still on their feet. With razor-sharp focus, he listens for the remaining enemies as they search for him, completely ready for whatever they throw at him. To protect his identity, the broadcast automatically activates a protocol. Back in the studio, the commentators' jaws are on the floor. They are absolutely losing their minds over a playstyle this wild. Shang-Cho is starting to spiral, thinking there's no way this guy is just aggroing mobs with zero strategy. It's pure insanity. And right on cue, a donation message flashes across the screen, asking if this dude's ability has literally 0 cooldown. When the question is thrown his way, the commentator shuts it down. Positive, it's not a cheat. He breaks it down. The build looks like a hack, but it's actually a galaxy brain play, using the game's core mechanics. The skill, he explains, is just a buff to his physical stats. It does nothing for his weapon skills. He says this means if a real-life Superman could even handle the strain, he could actually fight like this. With laser focus, our protagonist braces for the incoming enemy wave. But just then, a flood of new guards materializes, completely swarming him. They're closing in for the final blow when a man named Kim Chol steps onto the scene, identifying himself as the agency's top dog. So, turns out the agency is a government squad that handles invaders from another dimension. Their 9-to-5 is basically containing the insane threats that spill out of the reverse world. Woo-hyun immediately clocks the leader, stunned by the gear he's rocking. Kim Cheol then offers an apology, assuming he's just another victim, who managed to escape from the laboratory. But Woo-hyun sets the record straight, explaining he jacked the radio from an agent, who was already on the inside. The leader's face falls. He knows the agent is history, and the hero picks up on his trademark compassion. With that, Kim Cheol asks him to hang back with them, until they can properly verify who he is. The mission complete screen erupts, rewarding him with a level up and a shiny new skill point. The scene then slams to a shot of the interdimensional agency's imposing headquarters. Inside, Woo-hyun finds himself posted up in a counseling room, trying to process the insane turn his life has taken. He flashes back to the other world, to how he grinded his way up the ladder. by taking on every dirty job the corporations threw at him. The #1 gig was always subjugating the reverse world, which meant he was constantly thrown into battles against monstrous creatures. The Corps just used him as their personal cleanup crew, and that's how he first got entangled with the agency. Just then, a woman glides into the room, and memories of his past clashes with the organization hit him like a truck. She introduces herself as Lee Yu-jin, an agent from Team 1 of the Interdimensional Agency. Woo Hyun knows that name instantly. The agent gives him props for surviving this long, and with that, she lays it all out. From this moment on, he's got two paths to choose from. Path #1 was to live as a protected civilian, but he'd have to lock his powers away for good. Path #2 was to become one of them, an agent. Yujin warns him that if he picks the agent life, he'll be thrown into their training gauntlet first. He gets quiet, the irony hitting him hard. He's already taken out 7 of their agents, and now he has the chance to become their co-worker. She looks him dead in the eye and asks what it's going to be. The quiet life of a civilian or the life of an agent? After a moment of deep thought, he locks his hands together, steeled for the decision he's about to make. Woo Hyun knows that being a civilian would just funnel him right back to the corporations, a life he desperately wants to leave behind. So he tells Yujin he's in, he's going to become an agent, and her face lights up with the news. She lets out a huge sigh of relief, muttering about how the corporations were poaching all of the agency's best talent. She uses the moment to warn him that tons of people regret signing contracts with those private companies. Yujin explains that they're all flash and no substance, totally lacking in experience, unlike the agency, which has a legendary track record. The agency already possesses all the crucial knowledge for training the awakened and winning real fights. But Woo Hyun already knows that even with their fat paychecks, the corporations have led countless agents to their graves. He can't forget the time he had to literally slice open some guy's stomach just to collect his payment. That single, brutal incident blew his cover and led to the agency hunting him down for a hot minute. Snapping back to the present, Yujin says she'll get him registered and tosses him a work phone. Woo Hyun asks what the next step is, and she tells him he'll start as a probationary agent. Before she dips, she adds that she's seriously rooting for him to land on her team. He remembers his past, feeling a deep sense of debt to Yujin because of what went down. After all, she was the one who spearheaded the raid on the lab that saved not just his life, but the lives of his comrades too. Watching this all unfold, a viewer is totally baffled, thinking the dialogue with the NPC is way too fluid and natural. The commentator is shook too, because NPCs aren't supposed to be able to hold a conversation like that. We're shown that the NPC Yujin was only coded with basic dialogue choices, not the ability to have a real back and forth. But then it clicks for Songju, he knows the truth. This is an incredibly advanced artificial intelligence. It's a fully responsive AI that can communicate and vibe with players on the fly. He explains that this level of tech burns through so many resources it was considered a pipe dream for online games. The shocking conclusion is that the company never solved the resource issue. Instead, they buried the AI in the game as a super secret Easter egg, and the condition to trigger it was to start the game on the hardest setting with no combat assists, which is exactly what Woo Hyun did. With this massive discovery, the girl comments that the community forums are probably about to catch fire. Far away, a famous streamer's interest is piqued, and he's already thinking about inviting this rookie on his stream as a guest. Back at the studio, Seong Keel announces that the story portion has wrapped, but now it's time for some player versus player action. The scene cuts to Woo Hyun, waiting in a desolate room for the mysterious anonymous spectator, 62. But instead of some legendary player, a single, unassuming laptop materializes before him. Meanwhile, a shadowy figure demands an immediate alert if spectator 62 makes a donation, as the announcer gets a ping from Woo Hyun. His message is simple, he's ready. She pivots to the audience, a grin on her face, announcing the day's main event will be a one-on-one showdown. The announcer points out that this is the first time the infamous physical hacker has ever entered a direct confrontation. Her co-host, Seong Chul, then breaks it down. He's starting from the absolute bottom of the General League, just like any other rookie. We see the ladder has 8 distinct ranks, and hitting bronze requires 10 consecutive wins. He notes that pros can grind this out in 30 minutes, while average Joes might take up to 2 hours. Suddenly, a pop-up mission flashes on screen, dangling a massive prize for anyone who can reach bronze in under half an hour. A streamer issues the challenge directly to Woo Hyun, who accepts with a cool, confident smirk. The two announcers are absolutely buzzing with excitement. They're dying to see if he can actually pull off the speedrun. But they were completely unprepared for the storm that was coming. A match is found. The fight kicks off in a suburban arena, with 10 seconds on the clock before round 1 begins. Leaning in closer, the announcer spots a bizarre detail that throws her for a loop. It's Woo Hyun. He's dual-wielding swords, a weapon class he has never once been seen using. His opponent totally writes him off, figuring he just needs to keep his distance to bag an easy win. The countdown starts, a ticking clock that proves just how badly everyone misjudged the physical hacker. The round begins, and his opponent instantly fires off a massive ice explosion. But in a split second, the mage's smug expression melts into pure, unadulterated terror. Before he could even blink, Woo Hyun was already behind him, a cold blade pressed to his throat. With one swift, surgical strike, he shatters the opponent into a cloud of pixels. The system dings, announcing Woo Hyun's victory. He secures the first point of the match. The next opponent zones in and instantly surrenders. He recognized he was up against a smurf of the highest caliber, and with that, another win is logged without a single sword being swung. The second match gets underway, and Woo Hyun unleashes a terrifying dark energy from his blades. The enemy watches in shock as his own special ability just fizzles out of existence mid-air. Then, in the blink of an eye, our protagonist ends the fight, claiming another soul-crushing victory. In the third game, a martial artist decides to try his luck. He rushes in, throwing everything he's got into a single combo, but the result is brutally the same. He's deleted, before his attack animation can even finish. His legend is spreading like wildfire, and the next opponent enters the arena, sweating bullets. The wins keep stacking up at an unbelievable pace, one after another, an unstoppable rampage. In the studio, the commentators are just watching, their jaws on the floor, unable to process what they're witnessing. And just like that, in a staggering 20 minutes, he snags 10 victories and ascends to the bronze rank. Even the diamond-ranked announcer has to admit his run was nothing short of legendary. Song Chul calls the time surreal, but says the flawless win record is even more insane. He explains that most players have a weakness, a specific build that gives them hell. But it didn't matter what his opponents ran. The physical hacker simply dismantled them. He delivered a perfect, untouchable performance in every single fight. In that moment, the mission prize lands, and a fat donation flashes across the stream. The announcer offers her thanks, saying she can't wait to see what he does in the official ranked matches. But Song Chul's face is etched with worry. Now that it's a broadcast, stream sniping is a huge risk. He tries to reassure himself that the chances of a successful snipe are slim, hoping he's just being paranoid. The cue for a ranked match pops. The map is a gloomy cemetery, and to absolutely no one's surprise, a player successfully snipes Woo Hyun, spamming chat with celebratory emotes. The guy starts boasting about catching the hacker, and promises to teach him a lesson live on stream. But Woo Hyun simply draws his blades, completely ignoring the childish taunts. The announcer notes his composure, pointing out he's following instructions to ignore all the trash talk. Her partner looks a little uncomfortable, but announces that the fight is about to begin. The round starts. The enemy is instantly engulfed in a brilliant golden energy, screaming in agony as he powers up. He then unleashes a gigantic energy beam, blasting Woo Hyun across the map with the explosion. He screams in pure hatred as he charges forward, hell-bent on finishing our protagonist off for good. But Woo Hyun just watches him come, even considering letting the guy show off a little. Then he realizes it's just a complete waste of time, and ends him with a single, effortless strike. The system declares his victory, leaving the opponent bleeding and screaming curses. The countdown for round 2 begins, setting the stage for the next clash. Realizing he's about to get clapped again, the guy decides it's time to unleash his secret weapon. The round kicks off, and he emerges with a totally different, more menacing aura of power. Woo Hyun can feel the shift in the atmosphere as his own sword begins to thrum, glowing with a newfound, responsive energy. A devastating blow slammed him into the ground, the impact shaking the arena. But Woo Hyun's focus is laser sharp, analyzing his enemy's new attack patterns. They're faster, way more lethal. The dude just lets out a psychotic laugh, sneering as he asks if the hacker finally got his little message. He roars that round 1 was just him taking it easy. But now, the kid gloves are coming off. That single word hacker triggers a memory, flashing through Woo Hyun's mind. It's a flashback, the commentator's voice echoing in his head, telling him to absolutely demolish anyone who dared to call him that. Remembering that advice, a dangerous glint sparks in Woo Hyun's eyes. Okay, no more holding back. A sinister aura explodes from Woo Hyun's body, and his opponent feels a sudden chill as the entire vibe of the arena shifts. But he shoves the fear down, trying to convince himself he's still in control. He lunges forward, screaming at Woo Hyun to quit with the tough guy act. Woo Hyun's response is a single, earth-shattering stomp. A shockwave erupts from his foot, pulverizing the stone beneath him. In a flash of movement, he sidesteps the attack and carves a clean, precise slash across his opponent's back. The player gasps, a jolt of searing pain shooting through him as the brutal strike connects. Enraged, he spins around, a curse on his lips, but our protagonist is already coiled, ready for the next strike. He effortlessly parries the enemy's wild swing with his blade, the force of the block making the guy howl in agony. The player's face twists in pure disbelief. completely unable to process the insane power behind that simple counter. Before he can even process it, Woo Hyun unleashes another strike that sends him flying across the arena. The guy starts screaming, not from pain, but from the absolute rage and humiliation of being so utterly dominated. The round's objective lies forgotten on the ground as his opponent collapses, with zero fight left in him. Back in the studio, the casters are watching the beatdown unfold, and the female commentator is completely speechless. Seong-jool calmly explains that Woo Hyun is intentionally dragging this out, just like Neon told him to. The commentator gets flustered, stammering that she told him to crush the guy, not torture him like this. Utterly broken, the player just mutters, "What the hell are you?" Woo Hyun, looking almost confused himself, simply says he's just returning the favor, showing the enemy his own defeated reflection in the gleaming steel of his sword. Round 2 concludes, and the system declares an overwhelming victory for our protagonist. After that brutal display, he went on an absolute tear, racking up victory after victory until he blew past the 30-win mark. In the studio, the caster announces that he's already hit gold rank, leaving the entire panel stunned. Right then, a fan in the chat asks him to drop his build. She's hesitant at first, but finally works up the courage to send the message. To everyone's absolute shock, Woo Hyun instantly agrees. Thrilled by the reply, the girl spams the chat with a cute sticker to celebrate. She then hypes up the entire stream, announcing that the rookie is about to reveal his secret build. With that massive news bomb dropped, they wrap up the broadcast and thank everyone for tuning in. Even after the stream ends, the female commentator is still reeling from that insane 30-win streak. Her partner wonders aloud if he's got what it takes to shatter the all-time record of 76 wins. Absolutely buzzing, she declares that she's officially on the Woo Hyun hype train and is rooting for him to break that record. Seong-jool gives a grim warning though. The current record holder is notoriously competitive and is probably watching his every move. And somewhere, in a darkened room, a hand is flying across a mouse, getting ready to log in. On the game's official forums, the only thing anyone could talk about was the rookie's insane 30-win streak. We see a post showing the sniper who accused Woo Hyun of hacking got his own account banned instead. Scrolling through the comments, he spots people saying that not even the legendary pro player, Battler, could take him down. A smirk plays on Battler's lips. He finds this whole situation very, very interesting. He's intrigued. A few days pass, and the second stream kicks off in a sun-drenched forest. Woo Hyun's thoughts drift to Anonymous Spectator 62, the one viewer who was a no-show last time, and he can't help but wonder why. His thoughts are interrupted when Agent Lee Yoo-jin suddenly appears, calling his name and waving with a bright smile from a distance. The chat immediately explodes, going crazy over the fan-favorite NPC's appearance and praising her design. She asks if he's feeling the pressure for the upcoming mission, but he just coolly reassures her that it'll be a cakewalk. A second later, a mission screen materializes, showing off one of the unique perks for new players. He glances at it and asks what the objective is. Yoo-jin explains their goal is to neutralize some invading entities. They arrive at a derelict warehouse, and she explains it's another mess left behind by the mega corporations. She brushes off the jab about her dodging easy gigs, so the dude just switches gears, asking, "Who's the newbie?" He starts pitching Woo Hyun on ditching the agency for some corporate suit job, and that's when Eugene just snaps. She lays down the law, warning him not to even think about crossing that line. Totally caught off guard, Hyungju throws his hands up like, all right, the mission's all yours." He shoots them a smug grin before leaving, sarcastically wishing them luck. The second he's gone, Woo Hyun turns to her, like, who even was that guy? And she drops a bomb. He was the very first rookie she ever took under her wing. Eugene explains how he sold out for a corporation, and then started trashing the agency's name all over the place. Cut to the studio, and the commentators are absolutely buzzing because this is the first time anyone's seeing this piece of the lore. His partner totally agrees, pointing out how the game always just glossed over this stuff with zero detail. So they figure it out. The AI is actively building out the world, all because of the choices Woo Hyun is making. Back at the portal, Eugene shakes off the heavy conversation and motions for him to head inside. Outside, her old squad watches the pair disappear into the glowing, mysterious gateway. One of them cracks a wicked smile, muttering that it's finally time to set their plan in motion. 20 minutes later, the scene cuts to a shadowy, twisted forest. Inside the reverse world, Woo Hyun's eyes are blazing as he casually wipes a fresh trickle of blood from his cheek. The fight is over. The camera pulls back to reveal a horrifying sight. Eugene is down, completely wrecked and losing a ton of blood. Lying next to her, stained crimson, is the very same bullet she'd given him earlier. Then, the scene flashes back, showing them both stepping out of the shimmering blue portal. Eugene tells him this is it, the entrance to the reverse world. As they move forward, Woo Hyun gets a crazy sense of deja vu. This place looks exactly like a world he's been to before. But then, all of a sudden, the whole dimension starts to glitch and tremble violently. He immediately knows something is deeply wrong. This isn't normal. Right then, Eugene screams his name as a blinding light erupts behind her. She desperately tries to yell a warning, but it's useless. The screen cuts to black. Now, they're stranded in a pitch-dark, eerily silent forest. Woo Hyun looks around, and the chilling realization hits him. He's been separated from Eugene. He reasons that Gateway's collapsing is a known risk and braces himself for a fight. On cue, a disgusting horde of monstrous spiders crawls out from the shadows, boxing him in completely. His first thought, take out the trash. Then, he'll find Eugene. He pops a skill, and his hand ignites with crackling golden energy. He unleashes his wide-range thunder skill, blasting every single creature with a massive lightning strike. But right in the middle of the chaos, one of the spiders morphs into some kind of twisted, shadowy abomination. Elsewhere, Eugene is locked in a desperate battle of her own, but the shadow monsters just keep coming. It's a never-ending swarm. She realizes this forest is way too big. It feels more like a mid-level zone. Taking a ragged breath, her gut screams that this is a setup. A wave of panic for Woo Hyun washes over her. That's when her old apprentice materializes right behind her. A split second later, her instincts scream danger, and she whirls around, her face a mask of pure shock. Young Cheol blasts her with a fire attack, a direct hit straight to her gut. The force of the explosion sends her flying backward, as the traitor lets out this unhinged, psycho laugh. Crumpled on the ground, she chokes out a "why," but all he says is that he's on a secret mission. He even has the nerve to tell her not to take it personally, claiming he was just following orders. Eugene desperately clutches the gaping wound in her side, realizing the gash is way deeper than she first thought. She knows she has to escape, and fast. Time to go all out. Without a second thought, she unleashes a vicious counterattack on one of the goons closing in on her, but the soldier throws up a massive guardian stone, barely blocking her strike. Her attack completely shatters the barrier, sending the guy hurtling through the air. Eugene doesn't waste a single moment, lunging forward and brutally stomping on the soldier's chest, pinning him to the dirt. Young Chul is pissed, screaming at the other soldiers to get after her. Now, she seizes the opportunity, making a desperate break for it with the goons hot on her tail. But in the middle of her escape, Eugene suddenly skids to a halt, gathering an insane amount of energy in her hands. She's about to drop a nuke, ready to unload everything she's got on them at once. In one fluid, acrobatic motion, she slams that raw power straight into the earth, causing the ground to erupt in a cataclysmic explosion. The shockwave hits the soldiers dead on, sending their bodies flying like ragdolls. Using the chaos as cover, Eugene dives into a nearby burrow. The soldier who was supposed to be watching her starts to totally freak out, immediately blaming his buddy, screaming that it's his fault they lost her. Their leader just barks at them to fan out and sweep the area to find her. Far away, Eugene's hand pushes through a pile of leaves, revealing she gave them the slip. She thinks to herself that if it wasn't for that burrow, she'd be dead for sure. Meanwhile, Woo Hyun has already wiped the floor with every last one of the bug monsters. He examines the tracks on the ground, positive he can feel Eugene's energy lingering here. His face hardens. He knows without a doubt that she's in some serious trouble. Out of nowhere, the blue mission sphere flares to life, its light pulsing to reveal a new path, as Eugene's voice suddenly blasts from it, a haunting echo that cuts through the dense forest. He sprints toward the sound, spotting a brilliant blue light crashing down from the sky, somewhere deep within the trees. As he bursts into the clearing, he discovers a soldier locked in a death struggle with a colossal centipede. But then the soldier does something insane. He carves into his own arm with a dagger, priming a skill. In a flash, he transforms and vaults clean over the monster, zeroing in on a different target entirely. The centipede is obliterated by the aftershock, a chilling display of the ungodly power the soldier just unleashed. Woo Hyun finally locates Eugene, rushing to her side. "Are you all right?" he asks, but she can barely manage a whisper. He sees the gash on her arm, knowing that no mere bug could ever inflict that kind of damage. Woo Hyun assesses the grim scene, realizing the wound was carved by a special skill. In that moment, the horrifying truth clicks. This was all the handiwork of the traitor, Choi Hyung-chol. The mission sphere then confirms it, revealing that the enemy must have piggybacked on a portal anomaly. Back in the broadcast booth, the female commentator is absolutely reeling from the chaos unfolding on screen. Her partner is baffled, pointing out how bizarre this is, since Hyung-chol usually waits until much later to strike. They cook up a theory that the game's adaptive AI is pulling the strings, crafting a secret, unscripted storyline. The camera cuts to Eugene hiding, her heart hammering in her chest, knowing she barely escaped and another attack is imminent. She urges Woo Hyun to run, but he firmly tells her to stay put and let him handle it. She screams back, "No, you don't understand. Hyung-chol is a veteran. You can't take him on alone." Woo Hyun just shoots her a look of pure, unwavering confidence. making it clear he's already got a game plan. Meanwhile, down by the river, the trader's lackeys are scouring the area, desperate to find her. The leader commands them to sweep the valley, announcing he's going downstream to hunt the main target himself. All at once, the trader feels a chilling presence, his eyes snapping wide with alarm. In the next instant, a torrent of fire erupts from the shadows, forcing him to dive out of the way at the last possible second. The camera reveals a kid who looks absolutely terrified, desperately pleading with him. "Wait, just give me a second.